So because we are streaming this in 6 different platforms, there are a few instructions that I need to go over to make sure that this event goes off as smoothly as we can manage. So the first set of instructions has to do with simultaneous interpretation. As you can see on the screen there, we do have simultaneous interpretation for those who are on the Zoom call. The interpretation is available in 4 languages, in Nepali, Hindi, Bangla. Now, as you all know, simultaneous interpretation at the best of times is quite tricky. This is not the best of times because firstly, our interpreters are not, as usually happens, sitting together in a cabin and sharing controls. In this case, I'm not even sure if they're in the same city. So that's one level of complication. The next level is the fact that we are using the Zoom platform, and although Zoom does allow us to do simultaneous interpretation in 4 languages, it also has, shall we say, strong views on which those languages should be. And this is actually a really good example of why we need Global South solutions for Global South contexts. So your interpretation button at the bottom of your screen has a set of options: English, German, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. And you can choose the option depending on what language you want to listen in. So for English, you have to select English, of course. For Nepali, you would select German. For Hindi, you select French. For Bangla, you select Portuguese. For Urdu, you select Spanish. This is, I guess, in all Global South languages, there is a word that means jugaad in Hindi. It is our way of getting around what established mechanisms allow one to do and creating innovative solutions. So I hope everyone is able to select the language. Unfortunately, these options are only available on the Zoom platform. Those who are on Facebook will be listening in English only. So that is one set of instructions. Other matters, as with all webinars, microphones and cameras of all attendees will remain off throughout the event. If you have any questions for the speakers or for the panelists, please post them on the chat box. Even if you are watching through Facebook, on any of the Facebook live streams, we have people monitoring those streams. So please do note that you can post questions in the comments section, and we will pass on your questions to the moderator or to the panelists. We may not be able to address all the questions that are asked, but we will certainly try to address as many of them as we can. And hopefully the remaining questions will be answered subsequent to this evening's event offline. Finally, microphones of all the panelists should also remain off throughout the session, except when they are speaking. So please do remember to turn your microphone on when you are speaking. So that is to the housekeeping part of this event, and now to the actual content. So one more time, welcome, a very warm welcome to all of you. We should have soon a full house tonight. Those who have signed up are not only from South Asia, but from actually all over the globe. We have people from Mauritius to Mexico, and from Thailand to Tanzania. We have NGOs, multilaterals, donor organizations, academics from universities in many different countries. And most of all, I want to extend a very special welcome to the large number of ASER partners who have joined us this evening. And in particular, the very large number of teacher training colleges who have registered for this event. Many of the ASER partners join us year after year to support and share in what we do. And we don't often have opportunities like this to be all of us on a single platform. So I wanted to extend a very, very special welcome to all ASER partners and all ASER volunteers in any of the ASERs in any of our 4 countries. Just a little bit about who we are, who are all of these ASERs, and what is the PAL network, for those of you who may not have a lot of information about who we are. Probably most of you know that the annual Status of Education report, the ASER survey, started in India in 2005. So that's 15 years ago this year. And this model of rapid, large-scale, household-based, one-on-one assessments of foundational reading and arithmetic that are very easy both to administer and to understand, the model has gradually spread to many countries across the globe, beginning with Pakistan and East Africa around 2007, 2008. From there, people came to visit from West Africa, from the Americas, and each of the sets of people who came to visit found relevance in what we were doing to their own context, and took the principles behind this model, this type of assessment, back to their own context and created their own organizations. So we have, for example, UEZO in East Africa, we have MIA in Mexico, we have Learn Nigeria in Nigeria. In South Asia, all four of us decided to retain the name ASER, Annual Status of Education Report, just so that we could retain this regional identity, because there are many things that we feel are common across all of our countries. But even so, all of these countries, the member organizations are independent of each other, and we have come together to share and to advocate for the common work that we all do. So that is about the member countries. And in 2015, after many years of getting together and sharing what we do as and when we could, we decided to form what is called the People's Action for Learning, or PAL network, to formalize this structure and to better organize ourselves to support our common objectives and goals. So the PAL network has members in 14 countries, and we are organized in regional hubs. The four ASERs, who are your hosts this evening, are the South Asia hub of the PAL network. And so this event today is, the invitation is from the PAL network and from the four ASER organizations that comprise the South Asia hub of the PAL network. So that was just very briefly about the PAL network and about the four ASERs that comprise the South Asia hub. But before going further, I think that we would like for you to hear from the leaders of these four organizations themselves directly. Rather than having them speak, we have a short video where you will hear the words of the leaders of each of these countries. So we will share that with you now, please. Can we have the video, please?
When we started ASER in 2005, we had no idea that it would grow to become almost a movement across so many countries. An exercise that was designed to address our ground reality in India resonated with so many organizations in different countries because of the simple fact of low foundational learning levels, which were not being addressed by education systems. What was remarkable was that the spread of ASER was completely organic. While the basic approach was common, it was adapted to fit the ground realities and the local context of the country. Now, while this was a strength, it also meant that learning levels or learning estimates were not directly comparable across these countries. But now we have ICAN that demonstrates that it's possible to do a common assessment across all these countries using an architecture that was developed in the Global South. The launch of ICAN in South Asia is particularly exciting because we share so many common features, common languages, common culture. We are also all called ASER. Unlike other regions of PAL network, there is no regional assessment in South Asia and very limited participation in international assessments. Especially now when the COVID-19 pandemic has affected so many countries across the world. Almost over 1 billion students have been affected by these school closures. ICAN can easily be used to figure out learning gaps so that they can be easily addressed as schools start to reopen. Moving forward, our hope is that ICAN and this general approach is adopted in many more countries of South Asia.
It was in 2008 when Idara Talim Agahi embarked on a very exciting journey of ASER Pakistan, inspired by South Asia, and we felt perhaps one day we will have a common assessment tool for foundational learning of our children for the region, just like other regions of the world. Well, in 2020, we have a wonderful next generation tool, the International Common Assessment of Numeracy. This is perfectly mapped to SDG 4 and target 4.1.1a. It measures not just assessment, but also has cues for learning gains. It is again measured one-on-one for each child at the household level and the school level. In the worst global pandemic of COVID-19, this is a perfect solution. I invite you all to join this tool and this journey for South Asia, but also for the children of the rest of the world.
We have observed the Ministry of Education, along with a lot of central and local level stakeholders, running campaigns for school enrollment program. We have also seen a lot of progress in school enrollment. Since 2015, now we have SDG as a global common goals. Now we have global common goals, including SDG 4 on quality education. At the same time, we don't have any global common assessment tools to track the progress on those common global goals. So in South Asia especially, we don't have any regional assessment tools. So question comes, how we can measure, how we can monitor, how we can track the progress of SDG for quality education. So I think the ICAN from the PAL network can be tool to fill that gap. ICAN tool is aligned with SDG 4.1.1a, where we measure the foundational numeracy grade 2 or 3 level. So at the end, I would like to welcome all our friends, organizations, or countries in Asia to join this initiative. Thank you.
The impact of this pandemic and school closure is different on different children. While few can continue the online classes, most cannot, and many will not even return to the same school because of the economic displacement of their parents or the school closures. So when the student will return, they will need to be assessed to understand which children need additional care, which children need more catch-up to do. Traditional summative assessment is not the solution for that, and that's why I look forward to this amazing panel today to see what's their take on this ICAN tool and how ICAN can be a solution towards that.
Thank you very much, Willema, Bela, Rajiv, and Saeed, for your words. Many of you might know that this tool and the report that was based on the first round of large-scale implementation of ICAN was released globally last month on the 9th of July. It was launched by the head of the UNESCO Institute of Statistics, Silvia Montoya, at an event where we had speakers from all of the PAL network regions. And that event was attended by something like 2,000 people from the various platforms that were live streamed. And the reason to organize this event today, which really is focusing on South Asia, is that we wanted to take this conversation one step further, take it deeper, take it further within the countries and within the communities where we all live and work. Because in South Asia, while each country does, of course, have its own specificities, as our PAL network leaders, as the South Asia leaders have just shared, we do have a similar set of context characteristics and a similar set of problems. And perhaps these lend themselves to thinking about and pushing towards a similar set of solutions across the region. So with that, we come to the end of this first segment of this evening's event. And it is now my pleasure to introduce to you Ketan Verma from the PAL network, who will take us through the evolution of the ICAN tool, as well as the first round of large-scale implementation that was conducted towards the end of last year. Just to briefly introduce Ketan, Ketan is the assessment lead for the PAL network, but his job before this one was the ASER survey lead at ASER Center here in New Delhi, what we call the ASER General. So Ketan knows ASER, the CLA model, the PAL network, and the South Asia region all very well indeed. Ketan has been at the center of the PAL network's initiative to collaboratively design and implement this assessment. And indeed, we would not have gotten this fast without his commitment and his leadership. So it is my pleasure to invite Ketan to give us an overview of ICAN. Ketan, all yours.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Hello, everyone. It is my great honor to speak about ICAN, the International Common Assessment of Numeracy, in the presence of these great panelists. Without taking much of your time, we will just start with our presentation. Can you all see it on your screens now? Okay, I guess yes. So. Thank you. Usman, next slide, please. Right. The presentation will start with a little bit of a background on what we do. Why was ICAN developed? What does it measure? And what are some of the key findings from the first large-scale round of implementation that was completed in late 2019 and early this year? The panel discussion will then bring out the specific South Asian perspectives. Next slide, please, Usman. Right. So for those of our viewers who are not very familiar with what we do, just a quick summary. Like Suman ma'am said in her introduction, the citizen-led assessment approach was born in India in 2005. When Pratham designed an innovative approach to assessing the foundational reading and numeracy abilities of all children, regardless of their schooling status. This assessment is the annual status of education report, ASER in India. Since 2005, the ASER report has been released like clockwork in January each year, and the ASER approach to measurement has resonated with people in many countries across the global south. You can see here pictures from various countries across Africa, America, and Asia, where children are being assessed by trained but ordinary people using the same citizen-led approach. In 2015, the People's Action for Learning PAL network, a partnership of member organizations working across 3 continents, using this citizen-led assessment or CLA approach was formally established with the secretariat based in Nairobi, Kenya. Next slide, please. So what makes these assessments relevant for the Global South context and how they are different from the other traditional assessments? Unlike most other international, regional, and national assessments, citizen-led assessments are conducted in the households to represent all children in the target population, and not only those who are regularly attending officially recognized schools. Many children in our countries are still struggling to read even after several years of schooling. Our CLAs are conducted orally and one-on-one, as this is the only way to understand what children know and can do independently of whether or not they can read. During their schooling, children should acquire a wide array of knowledge, competencies, and skills. To achieve this, students need to build on solid foundations. Children who do not learn to read or do basic numeracy cannot independently access new content on other subjects. Our CLAs hence focus on foundational reading and numeracy covered in early classes. The assessment tools and processes are simple to use and understand in order to facilitate engagement by a wide range of stakeholders, including parents and community members. And finally, in order to encourage local discussions and exploring solutions, CLAs are implemented in collaboration with organizations, institutions, and individuals. The existing country-level CLAs that we already have are nationally relevant snapshots of what children can or cannot do. So the question is, why did we come up with an ICAN? Next slide, please. Most of us are aware that the SDG indicator 4.1.1 tracks the proportion of children and young people in grades 2 or 3 at the end of primary education and at the end of lower secondary education, achieving at least a minimum proficiency level in reading and mathematics by 2030. All education systems expect children to acquire foundational abilities of reading and numeracy in the first few years. Large proportions of children lag behind curriculum expectations, but they are rarely offered a chance to catch up. Hence, we are most concerned about children in grades 2 or 3 or within that age group because it is critical to measure learning early so that corrective action can be implemented in time. To track the progress of these children in early grades, robust and regular data on learning outcomes are needed over time and across countries. Almost all other international and regional assessments are school-based and exclude children who are not enrolled. These assessments, in most cases, do not cover children in classes 2 or 3. Even national assessment programs are based on country-level objectives and standards, and in most cases, these are not comparable across countries. Hence, the existing cross-national data that we have globally has little relevance to track progress towards SDG 4.1.1 for grades 2 or 3. Next slide, please, Usman. ICAN, or International Common Assessment of Numeracy, builds on the features of CLAs that we discussed a little while ago, and once scaled up will offer direct comparability of numeracy outcomes across countries. So what does it measure? The minimum proficiency level descriptor for numeracy under SDG 4.1.1 for grades 2 or 3 requires children to demonstrate skills in number sense and computation, shape recognition, and spatial orientation. ICAN was developed collaboratively by PAL network members, drawing on the expertise of experience of each member. An assessment framework was developed that is based on a broader understanding and requirements for numeracy in the early grades. Additional strands of basic mathematics encompassing number knowledge, measurement, geometry, and simple statistics in the form of data display were included to increase the scope of the skills assessed with ICAN compared to our previous country-level citizen-led assessments. As a result, 50% tasks on ICAN are based on number knowledge and other 50% on geometry, measurement, and data display. Along with the assessment tool, contextual questionnaires were also developed to record information on each child's current schooling status, households, and community characteristics. Next slide. Here are some sample tasks from the ICAN assessment tool. In the first panel, there are tasks on space, shape, and measurement. Then in the second panel, you can see some sample tasks on numbers. In the assessment, we included both simpler and slightly advanced number operations with carryover in addition, borrow in subtraction, and remainder in division. Worded problems were also included on the assessment. This provides more diagnostic information on what children can do and helps track as children acquire new competencies. In the third panel, there are tasks like telling the time from the clock, looking at a simple data display, and do easy operations, looking at the calendar to find a specific date. Full ICAN assessment tool is available on the PAL network website and websites of various PAL members. Next slide, please, Usman. Okay, now just moving to the actual implementation. ICAN was implemented towards the end of last year and early this year to demonstrate the feasibility of using a common set of tools across very different country contexts. Translation, training, data collection procedures were standardized across all participating countries and were based on PAL Network's Data Quality Standards Framework, which is informed by international best practices in assessment. ICAN was implemented by PAL members in collaboration with local partner institutions, a practice that has also continued from our traditional citizen-led assessment programs. As a summary of sampling, ICAN was conducted in 13 countries. In this first edition of ICAN, survey coverage was limited to a rural sample, and the scale of the survey was limited to one district in each participating country. While selecting this one district in each country, it was ensured that the existing assessment data did not identify the district as an outlier in terms of children's foundational numeracy outcomes. In each district, 60 rural communities were randomly sampled in order to generate estimates that were representative of that district. And in each rural community, the assessment was administered in 20 randomly sampled households to all children in the age group of 5 to 16 years. Next slide, please. Okay, the map on your screen now shows the geographic spread of ICAN in Eastern and Southern Africa, Western Africa, America, and South Asia. Overall, we assessed more than 20,000 children in over 15,000 households across 779 rural communities in these 13 global South countries. In South Asia, the assessment was conducted in Betul in Madhya Pradesh, India, Janaida in Khulna, Bangladesh, Makwanpur in Province 3, Nepal, and Toba Tek Singh district in Punjab province of Pakistan. Next slide, please, Usman. The sampling strategy that we just discussed generates a representative picture only of the sample district. Therefore, ICAN data from this round cannot be used as a proxy for national estimates. The purpose of this round of implementation was to understand the kinds of comparisons that the use of ICAN on scale facilitates, rather than to compare these specific districts. Hence, you will see in the ICAN report that the district names are anonymized as location 1, location 2, and so on, while showing comparative analysis. But in the district pages in the report, estimates on enrollment and learning are presented for a standardized set of indicators along with the district names. Next slide, Usman. So what are some of the key findings? And I will just share 3 quick ones. Hopefully you can see 2 charts on your screens now. If you remember, the minimum proficiency level descriptor for numeracy under SDG 4.1.1a expects students to demonstrate skills in number sense and computation, shape recognition, and spatial orientation. These charts show the proportion of children in class 2 and 3 in chart 1 and class 4 to 6 in chart 2 who are able to do a set of foundational numeracy tasks that proxy the minimum proficiency level requirements for SDG 4.1.1a. These charts also identify the class group by when at least 75% or 3/4 of children in a given location are able to do this set of tasks, which is denoted by the green bars. In chart 1, you can see that no location has at least 75% children in class 2 or 3 who can do numeracy tasks mapped to SDG 4.1.1a criteria. Even in the 3 best performing locations, that is location 1, 3, and 9, only a little over half the children enrolled in class 2 or 3 were able to do the simple numeracy tasks aligned to SDG 4.1.1a. In the 4 districts sampled from South Asia, marked with the red arrows on the slide, the proportion of children in class 2 or 3 who could do these numeracy tasks ranges from 53% to less than 20%. Chart 2 shows that for class 4 to 6, even in the 3 best performing locations, that is locations 3, 10, and 12, approximately 1/5 of children are still unable to do the simple numeracy tasks that are expected from children in class 2 or 3. Next slide, please. Since ICAN was conducted in the households, it generated information on enrollment patterns for children aged 5 to 16. This chart on your screen explores enrollment patterns among children in the age group of 6 to 10 years, which is the primary school going age group in most countries. As you can see that in 3 locations, locations 4, 6, and 11, more than 3 in every 10 children aged 6 to 10 are not enrolled in school. Despite 2 decades of national commitments to achieving ambitious global goals to ensure all children have access to free quality education, many primary school age children still remain out of school. There is also enormous variations across these locations in the type of schools that children enrolled go to. Next slide, please. And finally, this chart on your screen explores learning disparities between in-school and out-of-school children, taking the ICAN assessment in only 2 locations where we found a lot of out-of-school children. In location 4 and location 11, over 40% and 30% children respectively in the age group of 8 to 10 years are not enrolled in school. Children aged 8 to 10 years are usually enrolled in classes 3 to 5. In terms of learning outcomes, in location 11, only 1/4 of children who were enrolled in school were able to do the foundational numeracy tasks aligned to SDG 4.1.1 A criteria. In location 4, only 1 in 10 children who were enrolled in school were able to do so. But in both these locations, the proportion of children who can do these simple tasks drops to under 3% for out-of-school children. It is vital that these out-of-school children are included in the data and discussion on learning to provide a true picture of progress towards achieving both national as well as global goals of learning for all children. Next slide. Just as a summary, so ICAN is an open source tool and currently available in 11 languages. Most of its tasks are aligned to grade 3 level or lower of UNESCO Global Proficiency Framework. It is suitable to use in both households and in schools. ICAN is simple and quick to administer and understand, and hence easy to scale, especially in low resource settings. As the clock ticks to 2030, the target year to ensure that all children have acquired at least the basics, we believe that we need less top-down and more granular measurements of learning to fuel policy and practice change. Considering the COVID-19 has pushed millions of children further away from schooling, we believe that this is a critical time to reinvest in foundational learning. ICAN offers us a start. It can provide diagnostic information on what children can do as schools start to open up. Next. The ICAN tool is currently available in 4 South Asian languages, Bangla, Hindi, Nepali, and Urdu. These tools are available on the PAL network website as well as individual ASER websites. Next slide, Usman. I promise this is the last one. Just as we go to our great panelists, I wanted to share a critical question for South Asia. As you can see, most regions of the global South have their own regional learning assessment initiatives. Despite their limitations of being school-based and in most cases not focusing on early grades, these regional assessment initiatives still lead to greater collaboration of education systems and yields better knowledge sharing. For instance, we have PASEC for Francophone Africa and PILNA for Pacific Islands and so on. We currently do not have a regional learning assessment for South Asia. So can the ASER approach that fueled the ICAN across 13 countries be used to build a regional assessment that is relevant for our children in South Asia? That's the main question that I have, at least for the panelists. And on that note, I thank you all very much. Over to Suman ma'am again, I think.
Thank you very much, Ketan, for that quick overview. And as Ketan said, there is more information on ICAN available on the PAL network website, as well as on all of the member country websites. And some very important questions being raised that hopefully the panelists will now proceed to explore. So without further